Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spilling Our Tea, where we have real, raw conversations with powerful Asian women about life, business, and all the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Sandy Casano, founder of Joyful Optimist Coaching, where we help founders and entrepreneurs build abundant, joyful lives through mental fitness. As someone passionate about supporting female leaders, especially Asian women, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guests. Today, we're joined by Jasmine Tran and Christine Nguyen from Essence Skincare. Essence was founded in 2011, and Jasmine has created a clean beauty brand by blending her expertise as a formulator along with generational wisdom in plant medicine. I love this. So, her products are crafted with care and produced in small batches for the freshest experience possible. Jasmine's journey wasn't without challenges, and it was during a difficult time in her life that the idea for Essence was born. And what started as a dream evolved into her personal mission to create something truly meaningful, both for herself and for her customers. Welcome, Jasmine, and welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Sandy. Um, we're so happy to be here and talking to you about Essence Skincare and just as well as having a cup of tea. I am actually drinking a matcha tea.
Love it. I am too, having my tea. So
Well,
let's do some tea, right?
yes. And speaking of tea, what began many of our products is actually including the blending of different type of tea and our formulation. Yeah, we use like rooibos tea. We also use jasmine green tea as well as matcha green tea in many of our products. And I do a lot of the extraction. Part of what make a product is so unique because I process a lot of these um, extraction for preserving the product and keep it sustainable on the shelf. Unlike many conventional products, it's still preserved with tons of different chemicals like parabens, phenoxy, ethanol, and EDTA. So when you think about it as a consumer, you don't want to feed your skin with these type of chemical because it can absorb into the bloodstream just as well into the body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is part of my mission to provide that clean beauty um, along the way. Yeah.
I love that. I love that your brand blends this modern skincare with traditional plant wisdom. Can you explain to us or share with us how your Asian heritage and the wisdom passed down from the women in your family, how this has influenced Essence?
Yes, of course. Um, what came about with Exxon Skincare, because I grew up with a very well caring mother who always prepare meals with intention. She always actually planned the meal from breakfast, lunch to dinner, where it has a balance of protein, herbs. It's designed to be health beneficial, just as well as medicinal. So many of the plant or the herbs that she choose to go along with each dish would also provide for that seasonal element. For example, if we're entering into the winter, she would always look into crafting a pot of herbal chicken soup, or vice versa
Mhm.
for boys. She would use certain herbs rather more adaptogens so that it provide more energy to the body because as we enter the winter, just as we are now, the body is not as invigorating. It's not as more energized compared to the winter. So she add those herbs into the her meals, and of
Mhm.
course, whether we're eating for breakfast, lunch, or dinner is also about different type of protein for that uh, time of the day. Yeah. So it's always about balancing the body for that energetic level.
Yeah, so I can see how, as you explained at the beginning, how, you also take this great care of like what's going not just on your skin, but it's coming into your body. So just being really um, protective of, what we do to our whole conditioning, our holistic health. And I love that you are sharing this beautiful experience that many of us have had growing up as Asian children and women, of how our mothers, this kind of wisdom of knowing like our body needs, supplements, it's seasonal, it needs these, ways of supportive ways of digestion and health and skin. I was just telling my partner the other, I think it was last night, like our bodies know it's winter before our brain does, right? It's preparing. And so does our skin, so does all these things. By the time you start to see like, oh, the dryness and everything, it gets, your body already knew this a while, weeks, if not months before that the seasons are changing. So,
Yeah, it become past news, and it's so interesting that you touch on that because my mother always think about you know preparing for ahead, at least a month ahead, right?
mhm.
She's like, "Oh, winter is coming or summer is coming. Let's switch to this type of food rather than sticking to the same menu, right?" And it's so interesting because in nature, that's how the plant and the crop operate as well. Because, you have plants that you have to plant them to the ground at least 2 or 3 months before that actual season arrive. So that the roots be able to absorb some of the nutrients and the mineral so that it be more stable and more sustainable and be able to share that diversity along in that ecosystem with other plants. Yeah. So I love that. Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess now what you're saying makes so much sense to me, in the sense that because your products are small batch too, that you can adjust with the seasons of, because I'm sure your skin needs different support during different type parts of the year, right? Winter is different than spring and summer.
Yeah, it's also, I love that you touch on that because when you look at many of the larger brand, the big box, right? Their tendency is not to worry about a product going outdated. So often you can find their product not having compromise with the preservation because it can sit on their shelf for 5 years and nothing changed. Literally, the fragrance remained the same, the viscosity still maintained the same, nothing changed. So when you think about how your body is always transcend, right, from skin to how we eat, um, you might have different mood for different day or for different meal. You're like, oh, today I'm not feeling like having, cake, or today I'm not feeling like having beef versus chicken, right? So same deal. When we look at the skincare products, is that it's designed based on what the skin needs rather than just having one type of product for year round or for lifetime. So often I get customer that comes to me and say, oh my gosh, my skin is changing, it's getting drier or it's getting oily. And that's for the same reason, because there's so much that actually work in conjunction, right? So how you sleep, how you exercise, and
Mhm.
what you eat also fluctuate. And it reflects on how the skin actually appear to you. And so then you also have to consider what type of product can I use that will actually balance out for all these activity that's happening with my body.
Yeah, I my personal experience has been that as the younger I was, the less I really paid attention to what I put on my skin and what I put in my body. And now that I'm older, I'm very, sensitive and conscious. It's like I eat less processed food. And what you just shared, just it equivocates to the fact that I don't want these processed, overly chemical products on my skin, especially with that reminder that, your skin is like an extension of your lungs. It's going into your bloodstream. It's really, you start to really think about like, to be careful and be conscious of how you are, taking care of your whole body.
Yeah, I remember when Christine came to me about 11, 12 years ago, maybe, Christine. Yeah. And she can share her experience just as well when she came to me and asked me for all these advices. What should she do? And, you know, what can work for her or not. Yeah.
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 Thank you,
Yeah,
Jasmine.
do share, Christine. Yeah.
A little bit of history when I met Jasmine through a mutual friend. I didn't think a lot about skincare. I was in my 20s and just figured why think about something before you even need to be concerned with it. And Jasmine provided a lot of education around being proactive. You don't wait until there's a problem to start doing something about it. You get ahead of it. And I was always somebody that just, didn't bother with much of a skincare routine because I was busy. I wanted to have fun and live my life. But Jasmine introduced me to just a couple products. I remember my favorite one was Revitalizing Moisturizer. It's one of our top selling products. And oh my God, when I first opened the glass jar, it smelled so good. And I realized, oh, it wasn't just like a thing that you put on your skin. Like it could be this experience that you can just really enjoy. And it became a really enjoyable thing versus the stuff that I've seen in the stores. And it just didn't work for me. And I don't think it was made for me. Whereas this felt like this had me in mind. It was just a completely different experience.
So appreciate you sharing that, Christine. I actually felt these tingles as you were sharing, you know, the importance of like it, it's important that we have these nighttime and daytime routines and this winding down and like having great scents. It's not just about, oh, that smells great, but it calms your nerves. You can do all these things to really set your mind in the right space, and you can tell the difference when you have these bespoke and very um, considerate products that aren't mass produced. It does make you feel special. I think that is really a unique experience for sure.
Yeah, it also leave us in a really interesting space at the moment because when I first began a salon about a decade ago, not so many people in the consumer perspective would understand what is the purpose of organic skincare. They didn't quite grasp on even as much education as I provided to them because they're like, oh, it's a hippie moms and pops, type of homemade product. I would prefer to use Estee Lauder or the bigger brand where they can be more recognizable. It was a really tough, you know, year or beginning just to get our names out and to provide more quality skincare where people didn't quite understand why they need it versus like, okay, I'm using this for the sake of, being recognized for the brand, right? So when I create Esson Skincare, I actually have worked for more of a cosmetic lab that only focus on organic ingredients and organic formulation. And because I come from that particular background and also grew up with having, clean diet, it is so important to me to, you know, provide these type of product to the public just as well, because I'm thinking like, well, if they have a better option, they would choose this, you know, they would choose this option because in the long run, you are what you eat, right? And therefore, you are what you put on the skin just as well, because the skin is what protects your body from disease, from hot and cold temperature. So if you don't protect it, then it will not protect you. Mm-hmm. So that's how I look at it, and that's how I always inform all of our customer through that specific information. And because by doing that, it actually put us in a really good position right now where everybody understood that health is wealth, really. Health is where you want to take care of it, because who else gonna take care of you, right? Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, absolutely. Health is wealth. Great reminder. And health is not just, it's definitely what you put in, but as you're saying, it's that whole experience, what you put on. And, I think if you consider how much money we probably spend on the clothes we wear, the shoes we wear, if we took a fraction of that and actually invested that in our health. And Christine, you mentioned it, being preventative versus, reactive to things. We would live these, higher elevated experiences of life, less strain on our bodies.
yeah, so I see that where a lot of people are starting to take their health more seriously and choose better.
Choose better. Absolutely. Um, Ladies, a question for you both. As Asian women navigating the beauty industry, what unique challenges have you faced? Jasmine, you spoke a little bit about what you faced, but are there more? Because we're going to have listeners and they're, Asian women and they're trying to launch their own thing, whatever it is in the world. Like, what is it that you faced and how have those experiences shaped not just your business, but your personal journey?
Okay, well, I can start and I can speak from my personal experience just as well as from business standpoint. Um, Being an Asian woman, I discovered that I have to work extra, extra, extra harder to be in the scene, because number one, we're competing with $1 trillion industry, but of course, I'm not interested in competing with the bigger brand. I am just in the space to deliver and also to provide the clean beauty brand, right? You can choose this is the route that you want to go or not. If you're looking for, the bigger brand, we're not designed for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then number two, having that challenges, what I discover in the Asian arena is that because we are not known, it's harder for them to trust our brand because we're sort of invisible to them. And so then to sell to our Asian community, I find that I have to provide so much more information than needed. Mm-hmm. So that's what I discovered. And number three, when it comes to marketing and getting our brand out in the public eyes, it takes more effort. And because I don't have the funding that is available to me, I have to be creative at creating those exposure and discover which platform can I use to get us recognized and be seen. So that's what I have discovered from my experience. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Christine?
A little different perspective, actually, from the consumer side. I feel like growing up, none of the skincare products or the makeup products really matched my skin And I know people like my friends with Asian skin tones would put on makeup and their skin would turn kind of green just because it just wasn't made for our skin. And I decided to opt out of the makeup realm. I didn't even start putting on makeup until my 20s, just because I think there became more awareness on, okay, there's different skin tones and not all makeup is just going to match. And at the same time, I think that was a gift because I didn't put a lot of chemicals on my skin during that time. And then I met Jasmine in my 20s, and it it just worked out really nicely just because I saw what worked and what didn't work and just kind of stayed away from everything. But what's nice is that our products, like, you don't hide behind something. Your beauty is like brought to the surface. We're celebrating everyone's unique beauty, whereas I feel like makeup has a different type of feel to it. Like, we're kind of trying to hide it versus enhance.
Yeah, so we also about like encouraging women to live their truth, authentic self rather than mask them. Just because you have a blemish on one day doesn't mean you gotta cover it up, because a
Yes, thank
blemish
you.
a blemish is there for a reason to indicate, hey, what am I missing in my body that is out of balance? So it's there to show you something is within yourself that you can actually address. But what I can say often, usually, if we're breaking out so frequently, typically, whether you believe it or not, the individuals have a self-expression concern that they are not addressing. So I would say to all women, look at that specific area before touch on topical products to resolve that, to provide a solution for you.
Oh, wow. There's so much there to unpack. I love what each of you shared. And I want to just really highlight for our listeners out there this beautiful message of just being comfortable in your own skin and not having to hide or put a face that's not yours out there. I think for a lot of Asian women, it has been difficult to be comfortable in our own skin. And the products out there have not been made for us for a very long time. I so can relate, Christine. I remember high school and my friends would put on makeup and I'd put on the same makeup and I would look hideous. And self-esteem wise, it's great and funny now, but man, back then I just felt ugly, right? Because like it felt like, oh, they look great, but I don't. There must be something wrong with me. And um, I tried for so many years to put on makeup, and then I just stopped like you did. And then for a while, my mom would be like, "Please, just put some makeup on." I was just such a tomboy. I was just like, whatever. Um, and the what you were saying, Jasmine, too, is about you started off by saying it's just so hard. It's so much harder as an Asian woman. Why is that? Why do you think it is?
I'm not sure. I think it's the mindset, really. Um, it's quite interesting. I don't know where to pinpoint that, but I do a lot of events and markets, and very rarely do I receive clientele from the Asian arena for some odd reason. But I do find that it could be a trusted brand recognition more so than anything else, because we are not a brand where it's seen throughout all the platform, right? But of course, that's how every company are built. It take one step at a time before we get there, right? hmm So yeah, and I would love some feedback on that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So for our listeners out there, just, in our own Asian community, just a big reminder how important it is for us to support one another. it's the end of the era of branding and going for the big brands. Like, let's support our community, and really elevate ourselves. It's not, especially small businesses, we all know what it's like, and there's enough abundance out there for all of us. So it's just a matter of, making a different choice as well. I think we can evolve as a community overall. This leads me to this next question of, like, representation is so important, right? We both talked in different ways as a consumer as well as, a business owner. These two perspectives, like, that we show up and that we're loud, especially as Asian women. So how important is it to you to elevate not just essence, but also the visibility of Asian women in this clean beauty industry?
I think you have more to share about that, Christine.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like whenever you look at kind of beauty and the ads, like, it's not top of mind where you think of like Asian woman beauty. I mean, like, yes, there's elements to it, but I think it's just really important to show that, like, yes, we can be a small, you know, organic brand that has high quality. We punch above our weight, right? And it's not just about the size, but about, you know, everything that goes into, like, from beginning, like sourcing all the ingredients to the formulation and the care that gets taken into each step. How, like, seriously and a high quality each step process, is in our lab, and how Jasmine does everything with so much love. She has on her jars made with love, and it's very true. Yeah, what else you'd like to add, Jasmine?
Oh, well, here's the thing, right? So from observation perspective, since the beginning of Exxon to where we are today, it's quite interesting because I take the observation from how my friends and also my family, how they have looked at Exxon at the beginning stage. They didn't take me very seriously. No. They just like, oh, it's a hobby. She get over it. In a couple of years, she be done. But here we are today, and they have been one of the biggest supporter in that way, because they seen like how serious and how passionate I am, putting all my energy and my thought process into the formulation and creating and the designing of it. So they're starting to see that it's like, oh, she's actually creating a brand, It's not just a home mom and pop brand anymore, but it's a marketable brand, right? So my mother is actually one of my longest contributor and customer since day one, even though she didn't take me very seriously. But she has been, she's been loving all the products that I sent to her. Yeah. Mm. So it made me really happy when she gave me a call and say, "Hey, can you send me this?" Like, she actually requests for some specific thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yay, mom. That's great. And, what you just said, Jasmine, just made me think that, I mean, we laugh because it's funny, but it's also, there's always truth to what we share, in that I think often, whether it's in the workplace or in our community, people kind of look at Asian women and they're like, oh, like, kind of don't really give us the confidence or the credit that we are due. They kind of think like, oh, she's just doing that, or oh, she's so little, like, what's she gonna do? Kind of not giving us the same element of, I don't know, is it respect or just credibility? And maybe that's part of why we have to work so hard, it feels like, to
Well,
kind
especially
of
us
prove
women
ourselves.
too, right?
And
Especially
then
in
with
the
women.
women's space, Yeah, because I grew up with a large family. I'm in a family of 10 with 7 boys, right? So the boys were taken more seriously than the girl. And so in that way, we have to try to work extra hard to earn their respect, you know, like you mentioned. And of course, now I'm starting to see that recognition through them. They're like, okay, and they're expressing their respect through this aspects. Like, what do you need? You know, how can I help you? Yeah, so it's nice to hear that.
I'm wondering if you could briefly each talk about your ethnic heritage, history, and how that influences you and how you show up as a woman today.
Okay, so I actually grew up in Vietnam, but both my parents has always insist upbringing us with Chinese heritage because they believe that having a root in Chinese history and also their tradition and everything that is about Chinese culture, they're really proud of because it has such a long history. Mm-hmm. But having to grow up in Vietnam, I got to see the world of both culture, yeah, and understand how it's merged. And what's so fascinating for me because the first prime of my life, I didn't really understood my mother too well because of her insistence on being that Chinese culture and holding on to the root. And guess what? I went to college to major in Chinese just so I can understand my mother. so, I, so I went to study in China, and finally it clicked on me. It's like, oh, okay, I see why she struggled all this year. I see why my parents are the way they are. So it helped me to be more open to what they're going through instead of shut them out with the Western ideology because I practically grew up in the state in the last over 40 years, right? And so, being a teenager with that Western mentality and being rebellious against, her heritage was like a shame for her, so I had to understand why.
Yeah, I can speak to a little bit about my background. I was born in Portland, Oregon. My parents are from Vietnam, so they immigrated here in kind of the early 80s. It's a little different being born here, but also growing up in a culture of Vietnamese, like very strict, very traditional. I didn't speak any English until my first day of kindergarten. So, yes, I was born here, but it was as if I lived in Vietnam the first 5 years. It wasn't that much different. You know, in our family, boys are treated a little bit differently than girls. And I think some of that carried into my professional life when you're told not to speak up or your opinions aren't as valued as they would be somebody else. Had to really fight that, throughout my life and just kind of learning what my voice was because you're not supposed to have a voice. I mean, yes, you're respectful, you do what you're told type of thing. And I didn't realize how much of that was, so much part of me that I had to relearn and undo and try to fit into a different society, a different world where you do value being outspoken, being assertive, all these qualities that you're not taught to value as a child.
It's so true because, having an Asian heritage, our upbringing is all about respecting the elder and you don't speak what's on your mind. It's not taughtable, it's not encouraged. But in the West, it's encouraged for you to be outspoken and be expressive. So often we're like, do we speak or don't we speak? Yeah. So that's, yeah, even up to this point, I still question about that. Is it my place to speak yet or not?
Absolutely. That balance, when you're in a Western environment, but you have these Eastern roots, it can be very, complicated and confusing. Like, which is it? And I think we've all, in some way, learned to code switch, right? I immigrated to the US when I was around, I was in kindergarten as well, Christine. So I was probably around that age too. And I don't, I now look back and realize, like, oh yeah, I was in ESL for so long. And I didn't, because people today just assume I was born here because of the way I speak. And I was like, no, English isn't even my first language, but I think I blocked out for a long time that I was in ESL, that I didn't know the language, that I still sometimes struggle with words because it doesn't always come to my brain. And the other thing that arrives for me is, yeah, this ability to code switch, because we know, okay, when it's this type of person, we speak and think this way. And then when we were with our families, we speak and think this way. And we are able to do it so quickly, that sometimes we don't even realize it anymore, what we're doing. And
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's so interesting too because with that skill, I think it helps us to multitasking.
you think fast, right? You kind of have to think like, oh, what do we do? Like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's got to get done. Absolutely.
In my experience, also because I used to travel a lot, and I find it quite fascinating because, like, I don't feel like I fit in anywhere, even in the state. Nobody would recognize that I'm Vietnamese or Chinese. And when I traveled to China, they didn't even recognize that I'm Chinese. They're like, oh no, you're a foreigner. You are not American. You're not Chinese. And when I'm in Vietnam, they're like, oh no, you're not Vietnamese. Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know what I am. I'm just human.
There we go. I love that. You're just human, but absolutely the diaspora experience where is home? Where do I belong? It can get, again, very complicated because do I belong here? Do I belong there? And what struck me in the beginning, Jasmine, as you were sharing about your mom making meals for you, was how often, I think, in particular with the Asian family experience, food is expressed through love, not through physical touch. So it's like how they make food. But that can feel very weird in a Western culture where you can see your friends getting very physical, affectionate love. And you're getting a bowl of noodles or like cut fruit. And that can feel like, is that the same? Is that uh and I think now as I get older, I understand how much it translates, that care and the thought process, the planning, as you were saying, your mom's thinking a month ahead. How do I keep my family healthy? That's an epic form of love. It's hard to understand it sometimes when you're a kid.
Yeah, it's a different kind of love for sure. It's the love from the womb rather than the love from the heart.
Mhm.
But either way, it's still, the same type of love. Yeah, it's a mother love. So,
Amazing. All right, we're almost near the end, and I just don't want this to end. Like, I feel like I can talk to you both for hours.
same here. Yeah.
So, we are going to get to a good part where Jasmine is going to share some products and recommend them. But first, before we get to that, I want to ask each of you. So, for the other Asian women out there and women of color looking to start their own business, what advice would you give them on navigating cultural expectations and the pressures of entrepreneurship, of being a founder?
I say at this time right now, collaboration is key. Yeah, connect with your peers and don't be afraid to share where you are Yeah. And where do you want to go? So it's important to have a roadmap so that perhaps someone along the way, your peers might not be able to help you, but they may know someone who can help you along the way and will hold your hand and walk you through that roadmap.
Oh, it's beautiful. I don't have the same awesome experience as a founder, but I did organize and found my own meetup group. And the first time I did it, it was when I was pregnant. And I started a group with pregnant moms just to see what would happen. And like there was nobody that was interested. And then 2 weeks later, I thought, well, maybe I could do a hiking group for mamas. And that one stuck. And it was just the difference between putting an idea out there and then, okay, that didn't work. And then trying it again and, really believing that like I'm just gonna see what happens. And I think so much of it comes down to having confidence in like not being concerned about being rejected or, whether it's gonna work or not. And I think Jasmine, you didn't know, you're just gonna try. And I think that's just the first step. And leveraging your network and relationships are all extremely important.
Great. So, yeah. So, what I'm taking away from you both is it's really about connecting and just getting into the community and creating collaborations. And what I'm hearing is don't go at it alone. A lot of entrepreneurs think they have to like carry this giant weight of the world and their business on their own. And as a coach, I strongly advocate for all of my clients to actually do the exact opposite. Go get support, get a coach, get people, get your family, get a community, connect with perfect strangers and really develop a network and be bold and collaborate with other brands or just other ways that are supportive of other entrepreneurs.
And like Christine said, don't be afraid to experiment. Yeah, but through experimentation, that's how you can recognize what works and what doesn't work. So you can build a more concrete formula.
Great reminder, because I think as women and then as Asian women, we can often get the fixation to make things perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Is that a thing for anyone else? Right. So, it doesn't have to be perfect is what I'm hearing. You can experiment. You can say, oops, I can make that one even better. Or, taking feedback from your customers and not, taking it too personally, but instead be like, okay, how do I make, take what they have shared and make it even better? So constantly evolving is better than being perfect. Great. All right, here's comes the fun part. So there's a few products that I'd love for you to share. Anything new or anything that I should be putting in my shopping basket. I think there's one with Joy that I definitely need to learn more about, and I think our listeners do too.
Well, speaking of Joy, so this is our organic perfume that we introduced a couple years ago. And how this Joy essence came about was that I actually gave a workshop, an aromatherapy workshop to our staff. And because I want them to understand why we incorporate aromatherapy into many of our product development. And so that these are younger ladies, they're like in their 20s. So I figure, if they understand, they can choose wiser, right? And so what I gave them a challenge as well. I go, okay, now you take what you learn and create a product. It doesn't matter what you create, just create a product. If I choose one, we market that and it become a retail product. And so one staff, she followed through all the instruction and she met the challenge, and this was her design. And she got to design the label as well. So awesome. She did a really good job.
Jasmine, can you put it up to your camp, like in the middle, maybe?
Right here.
Yes, right there. There it is. Okay, great. Love it. All right,
So
that's going in my shopping basket. Yes. What's next? It's winter here in Philly, and so it's getting really cold, and my skin's getting dry, and and I'm getting older. What do I need?
And I have the other solution for you, which is our multi-fruit night moisturizer. It has peptides with collagen from the fruit, and it's designed to not only protect the skin from winter dryness, but also maintain that hydration that we all seek for, right? What makes this product so special is also produced with the dragon fruit. Have you had dragon fruit? It's
Oh,
so
I've eaten it.
delicious.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
delicious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you know, dragon fruit is so full of antioxidants and vitamin C as well. And with this moisturizer, I use a lot of different fruit oil from pomegranates to cherry, strawberry, blueberry oil. And so it's intended to not only nurture your skin, but provide a lot of um, more moisturizing during the winter time or all year round. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know about dragon fruit. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, her friend must have found out, like, oh, dragon fruit is antioxidant. So, of course, as a good Asian friend, I mean, she brought in like boxes of dragon fruit for her to eat every day. I was like, I've never seen so much dragon fruit in one place outside of a grocery store. But I love that that's definitely going in my basket then.
Yeah, it's my favorite product right now. When I use it, I think people think that I have like a hydrofacial or something because it's so hydrating. And
Mm.
yeah, it makes a big difference.
And I love that it's simple, right? I'm beauty product lazy, so I don't need a 10-step process. I want just something that's good. And there's something really soul satisfying about how you describe your product as being made with love. And just, I can tell how you both talk about these products that it's absolutely true, every last drop of it.
Well, it brings me joy just to hear from, our customer or end user say how much of a difference it make on their skin or it change, the situation that they're going through from acne to, hyperpigmentation or even like dull and dryness to more rejuvenate and more nurturing. Yeah. So I love hearing every single of those stories. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So, for anyone listening out there, let's support Essence Skincare, the Essence Skincare. Black Friday is coming up, Christmas is coming up, birthdays are coming up, and just tomorrow is coming up. So, let's make sure that we're supporting Asian women, small businesses. Now's the time. Let's forget those big brands. They've got enough of our money. This is really about community and helping lifting up our community. Christine, anything for our listeners to know if they're interested in learning more about Essence and how to find your products?
Yeah, you can go to our main website at essenceskincare.com. And then we also have a very active Instagram. And you can go to instagram.com, Essence Skincare with an A. And for today's listeners and specials, we'd love to give a discount. Joy25 for a 25% off discount for our listeners. Very, very special promotion.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, you get that. Joy 25. Amazing. It'll be your opportunity to, support a small business and get great skin. It's a win-win, right?
Yes.
Yay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
Fantastic.
everyone, for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thank you so much, Sandy.
Yeah, thank you, Jasmine and Christine, for spilling your tea. Hey, everyone, if you love this conversation as much as I did, make sure to share it with a friend who would find this story inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and join our community at joyfuloptimist.com/spilling our tea. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you at the next episode where we're going to be spilling more tea.